In today's lesson, introductories are the advantages and disadvantages of magnetism as a separation method. So remember, tichiri kuita separation techniques, and magnetism is one of those separation techniques. Saka we might start by just discussing what we learned about magnetism. Takati magnetism is a separation technique which is used to separate metallic cannot magnetic substances from non-magnetic substances. And an obvious example of magnetic substances, we have metallic objects like iron fillings which were used in our example. Then an example of non-magnetic material, we have non-metallic objects like sand, like grain, etc. So in our next lesson, we are going to look at the applications of magnetism as a separation technique in agriculture, cannot in separating metallic magnetic objects from grain, because you should know Zimbabwe is more like an agrarian economy. And by agrarian, we mean an economy which depends mostly on agricultural produce. So in Zimbabwe, we export a lot of agricultural products, and it's not cash crops, tobacco, cotton, flowers, I think are becoming a cash crop, and so forth. Saka takuda kuchitarisa manje ma-advantages nema-disadvantages ekushandisa magnetism as a separation technique. Saka we are going to start with advantages. And our first advantage, chekutanga list yatinopa, it's not exhaustive. You can do your own reading, and further research to find more advantages of magnetism. But the first advantage we use is the advantage which is directly linked to how we apply magnetism as a separation technique. Saka, we can actually say it's simple and easy to use. That's our first advantage, simple and easy to use. Anditika? Saka, simplicity iri pa material inodikwa. Anditi? You can use a simple magnet. A simple magnet. Like this. Requires only a magnet, no complex apparatus. And because it's simple and easy to use, this can take us to our second advantage. It's cost effective. Sakana chiti chinhu chiri cost effective, you should elaborate. Zvinoreva kuti it is what? Cheap. Kana kuti it has a low cost. That is what cost effective refers to. So what is going to be our supporting point? Chekutanga, magnets are reusable. You can use a magnet again and again, it does not deplete. Saka magnets are reusable and also inexpensive, which is the opposite of expensive, inexpensive. Zvinoreva kuti akachipa. Handiti? Okay. For our third advantage, tinogona kuti fast method. Quickness yacho iri pakuti magnetic materials are separated quickly, almost instantly. Uchingoswededza your magnet padhuze a mixture inocontaina a magnetic material, unotongoona ma-iron fillings achisimuka ega akananga pamagnet, hubvu huchisara huri clear. Saka this is an important point. It's a fast method, cannot quick method. Why? Magnetic materials are separated quickly. Panapa we can elaborate a little. Almost instantly. The process is actually instantaneous. And okay. For our number 4 palm advantages, we can talk about does not affect non-magnetic materials. Very important. But this is going to twist and become itself a disadvantage. But it does not affect non-magnetic materials. Let us put a supporting point pano. So our supporting point ndeyekuti, for example, grain, sand, or plastic remain unchanged chemically. So the chemical composition of zvinhu hazvichinji. Handiti tikashandisa magnet pakuda kuseparata tusimbi tungawanikwa notuwaya tungawanikwa muchibage, chibage chacho hachisi kuzoaffectwa. So it's an advantage because deno chaiaffectwa maybe techiti chapoisonous chibage chacho, kana kuti chakushata, chaaffectwa taste or whatever, but hachiaffectwi. It does not affect non-magnetic material. Then saka it does not change chemical, and saka imwe advantage panapa ndeyekuti no chemicals needed. Hapana kana chemical inodikwa panapa, kutongotora magnet process yototanga. Saka because no chemical is needed, it is safe and environmentally friendly. We are living in an age where we are environmentally conscious because of climate science. Iri kutiudza kuti we might actually threaten our own existence. We are getting closer and closer to extinction enabling climate change maneuvers. Tiri kuswedera to extinction level crisis because of climate change. So if you look at climate science, you are going to understand this. Saka magnetism yakanaka kuti it does not contribute to the depletion of the atmosphere. It does not contribute to the depletion of the environment because no chemicals are needed. It's safe and environmentally friendly. Then is our number 6 advantage. It's useful for safety. What do we mean kana tichiti useful for safety? Removes metal pieces from food grains, preventing injury. We are going to look at this in depth in our next lesson, but I'm just going to preempt a little, explaining what this point means. So removes metal pieces from food, cannot from grain, and this prevents injury. Imagine kawaya, kudya kawaya kanenge kari muupfu nekuti pamanogayisa pane kawaya kangopindawo imomo. I think there is a medical condition, not a medical condition, but a medical situation yandakambonzwa nezvayo, kuti pane kawaya kebrai andi kakanobaya etonsil yomwe mwana ndobva aita aya amunoti mahumunya aya airwadza zvokuti akaputsa atova infected. So what happened is vamwe vanoshandisa onion kana vachicleana their braai stand. Vamwe ndo vanoshandisa kabrush kanenge kari kagadzirwa newaya kuti vanyatsokukwesha. So ndo situation yangaitika, pakashandiswa kabrush pane kawaya kadiki diki kakaramba kari pa braai stand. Pakaitwa nyama and everything, kawaya kaya kakapinda munyama yakadyiwa nemwana, kakasvika kachibaya etonsil mumuromo, zvikatova bacteriawo zvokutoti pakazotoitwa an operation. So to prevent such things, magnets now and remove metal pieces, but in our case from grains. That's why pamunoenda kunogayisa paya munoona zimagnet ravanenge vakaisa padhuze nemuromo unopinda nechibage, kuitira kuti peadventure pamanga muchiprepare chibage chenyu kumba, pangava notuwaya twapinda muchibage tunobatwa that magnet. You might argue on efficiency of that process, and we are going to look at the local use of magnets in magnetic separation in our next lesson, but it's useful for safety against harm. Like example ndataura yemwana akabayiwa nekawire on his tonsils. So this is just a rough summary of the advantages associated with magnetism. Let us look at the disadvantages of magnetism. So takuda kuchitarisa disadvantages. There is a principle in Eastern mysticism inotaura about the yin and yang, the balance which should be between light and darkness, because we cannot define light if we don't have a concept of darkness. Deno kwanga kusina rima, we couldn't be able to define light. That is why the simplest definition of heat, mchazwana pachata energy in physics, we say heat is the absence. Actually, we say cold is the absence of heat. That's how we define coldness. We define darkness as the absence of light. We define the color black as the absence of color. Anditi. Saka ziriku itika pano, is it black the absence of color, or it's an absorption of all colors, then white in the absence of color? I might have gotten my facts wrong there. Please fact check me. Pazurikitika pandezo kuti tigone kudefine something, tiri kutora its counter opposite. To define coldness, we should have a concept of heat. To define darkness, we should have a concept of light. To have, the moment we have advantages, we should also have disadvantages. So it's a philosophical quandary, but whenever we have advantages, we should have disadvantages, in so much as we do not have a situation existing in nature, be it naturally or being man-made artificially, that does not have disadvantages if it happens to have advantages. So I just took you through some philosophical roller coaster, but let us get to business. Number one, disadvantages. Tinenge tichiti, it only works for magnetic materials. This is a disadvantage. And in a moment you understand why tichiita a disadvantage. Tinopepetera chibage. Toda kubvisa chaff and husk. Chaff and husk, they are non-magnetic. Saka magnet haishande in that case. Saka panapa tiri kuti it cannot separate non-magnetic metals like chaff, which is an impurity. So it cannot separate non-magnetic metals kana togonot non-magnetic impurities. Toda kuincrease the quality of our grain kuti tibatsire pakudya isusu uye paprofitability. Patinoenda nayo kuGMB haisi kurema, it's good quality, we get good money. But kana tine magnet atinayo inongoshanda chete pama-magnetic materials, haikwanise kubvisa non-magnetic impurities. So that's important. Our number two, it's not fully, munogona kuti not 100% efficient. It's not 100% efficient. Why? It depends on the strength of the magnet. This is the reason, on the strength of the magnet. I want you to do a research, and I saw this pa TikTok. Panama magnets ekuti when they attract anotoputika by the impact of their attraction, very strong. magnets, and I would imagine what happens when they repel kuti anokandana uko at near bullet speed. Saka kusimba magnets anosiyana in magnetic strength. Anditi ndochekutanga chatifunga kuziva. Why is that so? Do your research. The physics is there, the chemistry is there to explain these things, the mathematics is there to explain, but the strength of magnets differ. Saka magnets atinoshandisa kumba kana takakura tichitamba nawo ataitora maradio aya, they are relatively weaker magnets. But if you patichazoita electromagnetism, which is a work by John Clark Maxwell, akabatanidza electricity and magnetism beautifully, because before John Clark Maxwell zvanga zvisinganzwisiswi kuti electricity and magnetism zvinokama. Of course zvazvatanga na Michael Faraday, but because Michael Faraday was an experimental physicist who did not have formal education, akanga asina enough material and wit to theorize his theories. He did experiments in a lab and presented them, but did not have the mathematical power to put them on paper. Then came John Clark Maxwell with the 4 Maxwell equations. It's physics, it's physics, it's physics. Why am I talking about this? So in electromagnetism, where we generate electricity using magnets, the interaction of magnets and wire coil, that's how we create very strong magnets. So my magnets anoshandiswa at industrial level anenge are strong, terribly strong, as compared to my magnets atinotora muradio. Saka kusimba kwe magnet kunoita directly correlate with the efficiency of magnetic separation. It should be obvious. Mukatora magnet iri weak haibuditsi tumasimbi twakawanda from a mixture of iron fillings and grain. As magnet iri a little bit stronger, inoita a better work. So it's not 100% efficient. Tinogona kunyora panapa tichiti very small ion particles and may remain in the mixture. Very small ion particles may remain in the mixture. Okay, so I think this is fairly obvious. Number 3, magnetic materials may stick to each other, and we are going to explain why this is a disadvantage. Magnetic materials may stick to each other. Why is this an issue? This is an issue because this makes separation difficult if pieces are stuck together. So it makes separation difficult if pieces are clumped. Mapisi akabatana zvinoita separation ive difficult, because zvoreva kuti maybe kubatana kwaita ava too heavy for our magnet. Magnetic strength, and yatataura kuti it correlates with efficiency, ndeye kugona kusimudza chinhu. You can do this at home and look for iron fillings tusimbi twakakuyiwa, moenda nesimple magnet yatorwa muradio, muspika yeradio, inonosimudza. But even though mukatora zimetal bar bhobhojani resimbi mukaenda nekamagnetic kako akakwanisa kusimudza, kunyangwe bhobhojani iri handiti riri metallic, riri magnetic, harisimudzwi inoti chimagnet chaita chidiki chine low strength. Tikatora an industrial magnet inorisimudza. Saka kana maparticles ari clumped together, kureva kuti anobva awedzera uremu hunogona kuita kuti asakwanisa kusimudzwa nemagnet. That's the reason why magnetic materials sticking together becomes a disadvantage. Alright, number 4. Number 4, tiri kuti cannot separate two magnetic substances, and this is very very obvious and very very important. Kana tikabatanidza kana iri mixture yema ion fillings pamwe chete ne another metallic magnetic object, saka tikaisa magnet inongopula zvese. Kunze kwekuti thinking with your physics mind, data igona kucalculata kuti simbi idzi dzikava ne-property yekuti imwe inenge iri easily attracted to a simpler magnet than the other, maybe we can separate, but that's too much for us. We are not interested with that. Saka ndozviri kuitika apa kuti kana tiine two magnetic materials or substances, they cannot be separated. So if both substances are magnetic, both substances are magnetic, separation is impossible. Mapona. And this should make intuitive sense to you. Then lastly, this is also important. There is limited use. You can do this at home in wet mixtures, kana kuti moist mixtures. Kana zvinhu zvakatota, chero zvima-ion fillings zvakatota zvinonetsa kusimudza nemagnet. So less effective if materials are mixed with water. Less effective if materials are mixed with water. You see? You can try this at home and you'll find it working. Saka ndo zvatanga tiinazo nhasi, advantages and disadvantages of magnetism. The list is not exhaustive. You can add upon it, but this is just a list to get you starting. Say vangu vakanzisa English, Mr. Chifungwa, vakati a lesson is a window, but in order for you to learn, you have to be able to witness the whole room. So a lesson is like a keyhole. Kaburi kanopinda key pepe ndo lesson. Ndangokupa mvumo yoti mutarise inside. But imi manje mufanga kunge muchiona everything chiri mukati member. So you have to open the door. How do you do that? Through your own research, through your own readership and studyship, through your own effort to learn. Because I'm not teaching these things so that we can just have an A on a SimSec slip. Far from that. I want to teach the next generation of scientifically minded people who can think critically, who can ask questions, who can do their own research, who can survive the tide of this microwave instant gratification and this plastic information age. So this is all we have for today's lesson. If you want to contact us, if you want our lessons which are private, you can contact us on this following number. Our in Zimbabwe, it will just be 071 521 3310. Thank you and take care.